I knew the day my ex, Greg, drove off with Baxter, the golden retriever I'd raised since he was an 8-week-old fluff ball, would be the loneliest day of my life. Baxter had been my shadow since we moved into our first cramped apartment. He'd rescued me on the darkest nights of postpartum depression, curled up beside me when our son Jamie was sick, alerted me to a gas leak that saved our whole block. When I met Greg, Baxter had greeted him with a wagging tail and a slobbery kiss. I'd thought, if Bax approves, he's a keeper. 7 years later, we stood in Judge Harmon's chamber, the walls a dull beige, the air heavy with tension. The divorce had been quiet. No yelling, no restraining orders, just our attorney, Miles, describing property division. Your home goes to Sarah. The retirement accounts are split equally. And Baxter goes to Mr. Reynolds. My breath caught. Baxter goes to him. My throat closed. I reached for Greg's hand, but he'd already turned to the bailiff, nodding. Baxter would ride away in the cold backseat of Greg's black SUV, while I would return to an empty house and an empty heart. My lawyer gave me a sympathetic nod. I know this is hard, she said quietly, but you have primary custody of Jamie and half the savings. You'll be fine. I forced a smile, grabbed my coat, and walked out, feeling Baxter's eyes boring into my back. Every bark seemed to echo in my ears. Mommy, why aren't you coming? That night, the apartment felt cavernous. I lay on the couch in my sweatshirt, staring at the wall. When my phone pinged, it was an email confirmation. Re Baxter transfer. PNR 4T9JFQ. Your request has been processed from Greyhound Pet Movers, the company Greg had hired to shuttle Baxter cross-country to his new home in Boise. I clicked it, hands shaking. Baxter's route, stopovers, estimated arrival. And a final note, driver contact 208 555 0199. Baxter had a number, a schedule, a departure time. I felt my chest tighten. That weekend, I baked a batch of Jamie's favorite peanut butter cookies and zipped them into a cooler for the movers. I wanted Baxter to know he was loved, even if he wasn't staying. At 7 on Monday, the driver arrived, truck idling, radio on low. I pinched my son's arm. Ready, buddy? Jamie, 7 and wise beyond his years, hugged me tight. Bring him back, Mom. His voice cracked. I nodded, handing the cooler to the driver. Baxter peeked out through the opening, nose twitching. He whined, tail thumping. I knelt and hugged him, scratching behind his ears. He licked my face and then let himself be lifted, peaceful in his golden Hosfuz trust. I slammed the door and watched the truck pull away. My son and I stood on the sidewalk, two broken hearts under the gray sky. The first few weeks were brutal. I'd see empty leash hooks. I'd trip over that one tennis ball that always rolled into the hall. Jamie's pillow was soaked with tears at night. Friends suggested I get another dog. I couldn't bear the thought. I'd lost Baxter, my partner in every adventure, my first real love, and Greg, he'd taken a piece of me with him. But life marches on. I dove into work, pouring myself into marketing campaigns for a boutique hotel chain. My colleagues tried to cheer me up with office dogs, tearful reunions, fresh-baked cupcakes, but each wag and bark stabbed my heart. I'd glance at Pup of the Month posters, blinking back tears so I didn't embarrass my team. One evening, I sat on our front porch with a glass of wine, phone in hand, when my thumb hovered over the Greyhound driver's number in my contacts. I stared at it. I didn't need his help to bring Baxter home, but what if Baxter was miserable? What if the driver knew something? I set the phone down. No, I'd given up on that. Baxter belonged to Greg now. I texted my mom. I miss him so much. She replied, I know, sweetie. In time you'll feel whole again. I tried to believe it. 3 weeks after the move, on a balmy Thursday, the doorbell rang at 4:17. Usual time I came home from work. I peeled off my blazer, an immaculate black Chanel knock I'd treated myself to when Jamie started kindergarten, and opened the door. No one was there. I frowned, looked down a cardboard box, taped shut, sat on the welcome mat. No return address, just my name in crooked letters. I carried the box inside, sank onto the couch, and tore at the tape. Inside were 3 items: a chew toy shaped like a pineapple, brand new, one Greg had hidden away in Baxter's toy box weeks before the divorce. A faded tennis ball, caked with dirt and slobber, one of Baxter's favorites that had vanished after the move. A folded envelope, thick, cream cardstock, embossed with my name in gold. My pulse rattled like loose change as I pulled out the envelope. Inside was a single note in neat handwriting. To Sarah, the best mom Baxter ever had. He asked me to send these back when he went looking for home. Yours truly, your loyal pup, Baxter. My breath caught. I looked at the toys. One new, one old, tears prickling. Baxter had carried them cross-country across 1,000 miles and dozens of highways until they reached me. He'd refused to stay away. And whoever had sent them had facilitated Baxter's escape. A message from Greg, the mover. I sank onto the couch, clutching the note and toys. Something deep inside me reawakened. I dialed Greg's number. It rang and rang, unanswered. My text, thanks for sending the box. Please tell Baxter I love him. Nothing. Then I dialed the driver's number, 208-555-0199. It went to voicemail. No greeting, just the beep. I hesitated, but the ember of hope blazed. I recorded, "This is Sarah Roberts. I'm calling about Baxter. Please call me back. It's urgent." I hung up, chest tight. At 10 p.m. my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. Falk. I answered. "Hello," a deep voice whispered. "Baxter's safe. He's back with me now." I froze. "Who is this?" He laughed softly. "Someone who owes him a favor." He hung up. My teeth chattered. The next day, I took a sick day. I poured coffee, packed a bag, and drove 2 hours northwest to an old farmhouse outside Boise, Greg's new dog home. The brilliant fall leaves blurred past as I gripped the wheel. My mind raced. I could confront Greg. I could demand Baxter back. I could call the police for theft of property. Or I could just see my dog again. At the farmhouse, peeling paint, weathered porch, I parked on gravel and approached the gate. A sign read, "Green's Pet Retreat, by appointment only." I rang the bell. Moments later, a middle-aged man in overalls opened the door. Barn smell, friendly face. "Can I help you?" he asked. Eyebrows knit. "I'm Sarah Roberts," I said. "I'm looking for Baxter." My voice trembled. His eyes flicked to the bag at my feet inside Baxter's old fleece blanket and collar. "He's here." He nodded behind him. "Gone for a little wanderin', but I brought him back." My throat constricted. I got his toys and a note. I dug the note from my pocket and handed it over. He nodded as he read. "He's a clever one," he said softly. "Found the highway, barely made it to my place. Kept carrying that pineapple toy in his mouth." He stepped aside. There in the yard, bolt of gold and curiosity, stood Baxter, tail wagging like a metronome. He bounded over, hit my legs with his nose, and skidded to a stop, height of joy. I knelt, arms open. He launched himself into my lap, licking my face, paws dancing. I sobbed into his fur, and he just held me. Big wet head pressed to my cheek. Then I looked up at the man in overalls. "Why didn't you contact me?" I asked. He shrugged. "Your ex claimed he owned Baxter outright. I didn't want to get in the middle of a divorce. I tried calling your number from the caller tag, but no luck, so I kept him safe, until someone could claim him." The words hit me like cold water. Greg wouldn't, my voice broke. He wouldn't leave him alone. The man tipped his hat. "Maybe, but Baxter knows who's home, and he didn't wait around for a contract dispute." I nodded, tears still streaming. I scratched Baxter behind the ears. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you for bringing him back." He smiled kindly. "Give him an extra biscuit for me." I drove back in the fading light. Baxter stretched across the passenger seat, head on my lap. I felt every mile stitch my broken heart back together. At home, Jamie rushed out with open arms. "Baxter!" he cried, hugging him until the dog's tail was a blur. That night, we sat on the couch, Baxter between us, and I read him his favorite bedtime story. Jamie whispered, "Mom, can Baxter stay with us forever?" I hugged him. Forever. Down the hall, unaware of our reunion, was the answering machine. It bounced off the wall with messages. Greg's attorney leaving a voicemail demanding Baxter's return. Greg himself coughing with irritation. My phone, it buzzed with texts from my friends. "Saw your post, reunited. Baxter's home at last. Is Greg freaking out?" I didn't respond. I curled up under the blanket, Baxter's warmth against my side, Jamie tucked under my arm. My phone lay face down on the table. Damage done. Baxter was back where he belonged. And as I drifted into sleep, I realized in divorce, they can take many things: houses, savings, pets. But sometimes love and loyalty chart their own path home. And when that path's trailed in paw prints, no court order can rewrite where a heart truly lives. I woke up the morning after Baxter's homecoming to a silence so thick, I almost forgot what it felt like. The only sound was Baxter's gentle snore from his bed beside mine. I slid out of the quilt and padded into the kitchen, where a single cup of coffee waited beside the note I'd left for Mark. Off to legal consult. Be back by lunch. The envelope from Green's pet retreat lay on the counter, the flap still uncut. I stared at it, heart pounding. Inside was Baxter's note, scratchy handwriting that teased me even now. I miss you, Mommy. Thanks for bringing me home. Baxter taped to it was a second, thicker envelope, manila, heavy. My breath caught. I eased it open. Inside, folded neatly, was a document stamped with Boise County's seal. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. Quittance and transfer of title property, Lakeview Retreat Cabin, parcel number 47392 LV, previous owner, Gregory Reynolds, new owner, Sarah Louise Roberts, date September 28, 2023. Below the headings, in fine type, the details of a lakeside cabin, complete with guest cottage and boathouse, nestled on 6 wooded acres with a dock reserved for 2 boats. The deed bore Greg's signature in crisp, looping strokes, and a second sheet spelled out the cost basis and equalization of marital assets, meaning someone our attorney office had transferred the cabin to me as part of our divorce settlement. The kicker, I'd never even known this cabin existed. I sank onto the stool, the document fluttering in my lap. Baxter padded in, lowered his head to sniff the paper, and then looked up at me, tail thumping. My heart swelled. The dog had escorted his own deed back home. That morning's legal consult was a blur of handshakes and congratulatory murmurs. I brought the deed into Miles's office, our divorce attorney, who'd expertly navigated the original settlement. He peered over rimless glasses. Well, Mrs. Roberts, he said, sliding the papers across his desk, it appears Mr. Reynolds executed the transfer clause properly. You have full ownership. I nodded, eyes stinging. I didn't even know it existed. He leaned back. He may have tried to keep it hidden, perhaps as a surprise gift to his new partner, or as a way to sidestep tax. Hard to say. But legally, it's yours. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. So, the cabin is mine? He gave a small smile. Congratulations. In the cab home, I stared out at the passing fields. The cabin, my cabin, seemed impossibly real. I'd never visited, never packed, never even seen photos. And now it was mine, courtesy of Baxter's unlikely delivery service and Greg's own pen. That afternoon, I called Mark from home. Honey, you're not going to believe this, but I have a surprise for you. He chuckled. Is it cookies? Better. I own property. There was a pause. Wait, what? I explained the deed and Baxter's heroic retrieval. His laughter crackled through the speaker. Only our dog could unearth something like that. Shall we take a weekend trip? I asked, already imagining the pine trees and the gentle lapping of lake water. Absolutely. That weekend, armed with suitcases, Baxter's favorite blanket, and boxes of Jamie's fishing gear, we drove west. When we pulled up the gravel driveway to Lakeview Retreat Cabin, I felt something shift in my chest, the weight of betrayal lifted, replaced by a flood of possibility. The cabin loomed, a rustic log structure with wide windows and a wraparound porch. The sun glinted off the black metal roof, and the dock stretched out into crystal water. The air smelled of cedar and early fall chill. Jamie exploded from the car, sprinting toward the dock, Baxter at his heels. Mark followed, snapping photos. I stepped onto the porch and ran my hand over the wood railing, smooth from years of sun and rain. My phone buzzed, an email from Greg's lawyer, demanding return of the deed. I ignored it and turned my back on the road, focusing on the horizon. The cabin's interior was cozy, knotty pine walls, a stone fireplace, a sagging leather couch. I flicked on lights, and the soft glow revealed a fully furnished living room, furnished, I presumed, by Greg's taste or by professional stagers. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances. Each room had a bed, a chest of drawers, even framed prints of sailing boats on the walls. Mark wandered through, touching the cabinets and opening drawers. He used to bring me here on business retreats, he said quietly. He thought it was a second honeymoon spot. I let out a soft laugh. Well, it's my turn now. I unlocked the linen closet and found fresh towels, dishware, bedding. It was move-in ready. I drew a deep breath and opened the sliding door to the deck, where Adirondack chairs faced the lake. The breeze ruffled my hair. I drank in the silence. Jamie shadowed Baxter onto the dock and dangled his feet over the water, skipping stones. I turned back to Mark. I think this place is going to be our new happy place. He wrapped an arm around my waist. We'll fill it with better memories than he ever did. That evening, we conjured a fire in the stone hearth, dry pine crackling, and roasted s'mores. Baxter sprawled by our feet, head on my slipper, eyes half closed. The sky darkened, stars blinking into place. Mark handed me a mug of cocoa, and we sank into the couch. You know, he said after a pause, I thought losing the house was the worst part of our divorce. But this feels like a gift. I nodded, heart full. It's a second chance. We toasted to new beginnings, marshmallow strings between us, and even Jamie fell silent in awe of the night sky. When Sunday morning arrived, I found markers and a notebook and suggested a welcome to Lakeview sign-making session. Jamie scrawled our names along with Baxter's spot, adding a paw print doodle. I painted Robert's family retreat on weathered driftwood. We hung the signs at the drive entrance and at each cabin corner, claiming our slice of paradise. Mid-morning, I took Baxter for a walk through the woods along the property line. The pine needles cushioned our steps. Baxter nosed at every stump, occasional lunge and bark at squirrels. I let him lead me to a mossy clearing that overlooked the lake. I knelt beside him. You did this for us, boy, I whispered, scratching behind his ears. Thank you. He sat beside me, surveying the water as though he knew exactly what he'd done. On the walk back, I paused at the old boathouse, barn red with peeling paint. Inside lay a canoe, a fishing boat and paddles. I dragged the canoe to the shore with Mark's help later, and we took it out on the lake. Jake, our preteen neighbor from next door, giggled when I nearly tipped us over stepping in. We glided across the glassy surface, skis lazily floating behind, birch trees mirrored in the water. Baxter rode shotgun in the bow, tail wagging like a mast in the breeze. That night, we grilled fish I'd caught from the dock and served salad from the cabin garden's late basil harvest. I poured a crisp Sauvignon Blanc, and we ate on the deck, laughter and stories floating up like firefly lights. Back in Boise, the fallout began. Greg's lawyer sent a sharply worded letter demanding immediate vacation of property and return of all keys. I called Miles, who calmed me with a reminder. Legally, the deed transfer was final. Greg had no recourse. Meanwhile, Greg himself called, voicemail after voicemail, pleading, cajoling, threatening. Each message I deleted unread. My phone lay silent, a monument to closure. That weekend, I posted a photo on social media, Baxter's nose in the driftwood sign, Jamie high-fiving the canoe, Mark's silhouette framed by the sunset. Caption, Home Sweet Robert's Family Retreat. Comments poured in, so happy for you. That cabin is gorgeous. Best revenge ever. I smiled and let them leave the celebration. 2 months later, autumn settled in with fiery maples, crisp nights, and the first frost on the dock. We spent weekends at Lakeview apple cider hunts in the orchard, marshmallow roasts, while wearing chunky sweaters, even a Halloween cabin crawl for neighborhood kids. Baxter, with his signature golden fur and wise eyes, led the pack, reveling in leaf piles, chasing only the occasional ghost silhouette. On Thanksgiving, we hosted a turkey dinner for 6. Mark's mom, who'd been neutral in the divorce, Anna and her fiancé, me, Mark, Jamie, and Baxter, with a specially baked turkey bone treat. The cabin's hearth roared, our voices blended in gratitude. Midway through carving, Anna cleared her throat. Sarah, she said, this place, I'm so glad it's yours. She raised her glass, to new chapters and loyal dogs who bring them home. We all cheered. Baxter thumped his tail. I looked around the table, family by blood, family by choice. None of us had to worry about a divorce decree. Here was the proof that love and loyalty carved their own paths. That night, while Mark and Jamie watched a movie in the living room, I wandered back to the clearing by the lake. Baxter padded at my side. The moon shimmered on the water. The boathouse silhouette silent. I knelt and ran my hand along the grass. Memories of that beige divorce room and that grinning ex blurred into the darkness behind me. Baxter nudged my hand with his nose, reminding me who had led the way. A dog's steadfast heart, a trail of toys and letters, a deed delivered in nimble jaws. He'd returned with the gift of this retreat, this haven. And in that moment, I realized our home was no contract or court order. It was written in paw prints on the path through the pines. I looked down at him and whispered, "You're my hero, Baxter." He wagged his tail, then bounded off, chasing a bright moonbeam across the clearing, leading me toward a future built on trust, gratitude, and the simple joy of being together. And as I walked back through the woods, hand in leash, I knew this was exactly where we were meant to be, safe, whole, and finally home.